it required a complete readjustment. In fact, I'm still investigating and adjusting to it because, look, it's a new sound, it's a blank canvas, and I'm creating a whole new David Ellefson here. It's kind of like, hello me, meet the new me.
Ghost Cult Magazine is back with the great David Ellefson of Dieth and many other projects. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Good to see you again.
Great to see you as always. You have been so busy with project after project, but dare I say, after listening to Dieth, this is definitely a foot back into the more extreme side of heavy metal and extreme, genres of metal, as well as potentially this could, with Napalm Records, this album coming out on June 2nd, definitely I could see it being like one of the, most high profile things you're doing. So congrats on the
Thank
record.
you.
And I just
Thank
wanted
you.
to get like a little backstory on how you and the guys came to be.
Sure. Well, it came by an email from a mutual friend, Christian Lawrence from the band Dead by Wednesday out of Connecticut. I put some records out for his band on Combat, and he played drums for me and some Ellefson solo stuff, and with me and Frank Bello. So, Christian's just been a good friend of the community, and he made an introduction to me and Guilherme January 2022. So new year, new day, new month, new songs, new friends, new beginnings. That's really, I think, kind of the spirit of Dieth, and how we met. So we recorded the track that became In the Hall of the Hanging Serpents, and then I went to Europe a couple months later. We shot the video. We popped it out in July, and Napalm was at our door weeks later, and record deal done. And we were in the studio finishing the album over in Germany in September and October. And I went back over again in November and December to shoot some more music videos. And so, yeah, I've been flying across the pond a lot, but it's great, man. I love it over there. I have a lot of fun. As an American, I love the history from where I came from as a European descendant. So to me, it's kind of like going back to the mother and fatherland of where my family came from, and with my bass, so like go make some music, make some new friends, and let's blow this up.
Nice, I like it. And yeah, that definitely the album is extremely strong for those who have, not going to have heard it by the time we are chatting today, but I've gotten to spend some time with it and listen to it a bunch. And shout out to John and the PR team for Napalm for sending it over. And yeah, it's very diverse, but it's extremely brutally heavy. Arguably some of the heaviest stuff you've ever recorded or written. And I think it's very refreshing and cool. I love all the projects, and all of them have their own identity. So it feels to me like, you can get your, for a lack of a better vernacular, your yayas out in every different little project has a different vibe and a feel.
You're 100% right. And, I learned that, I learned that on the Megadeth Risk album, where we tried to sort of expand the sound under the name of Megadeth. And of course, a lot of fans got pissed and upset, and the thrash fans cried foul. And then there's a bunch of new fans who went, this is awesome. And, so it's really hard to be all things to all people under one moniker, and I think what the last, even 20 years, right? Because look, people got to hear me do a lot of expansive stuff within Megadeth, especially during the 90s, was a season for that band. But then, in the 2000s, when I wasn't in Megadeth, I did a ton of stuff, between F5, I played with Max Cavalera. I had Hail with Andreas Kisser. We just did a lot of stuff. Metal Allegiance formed, sometime after that, after I went back to Megadeth again. And so, I think I've sort of trained the public that I'm more than just a one-trick pony thrash metal bass player. Like I can play more than just Rust in Peace, look, it's great to be known for that. I don't take that lightly. That is the mantelpiece probably by which I will live and die as a heavy metal hero to many, and I love that, and I'm thank you, super appreciative, but as musicians, I'd like to not rest on my laurels. I like to expand and keep doing new things. And I think what all of these things have shown, and Dieth for sure, is adaptability, to be able to come into a situation and sort of adapt, to create new things together. Everything doesn't have to sound like my past. It's okay to rewrite the future. It's okay now in this part of my life. This is the second act of the play of David Ellefson's life. And I mean, maybe in some ways act three, you know, because I already had act one of the first 20 years. The 2000s was act two. This is act three. All right, what's this going to be about, you know? And so I think it's fun, you know, as people first heard, I guess, the Lucid, you know, and this kind of stuff, which was really refreshing. It was a fresh new sound, and it was very soaring and lifting of the spirit, I think. And then to kind of come back and like sort of drive a stake back into it with Dieth, you know, is it's fun to just kind of always be turning corners that I didn't even see coming, you know. So that's, I think, what this journey is about now.
That's a great perspective, and you sound really rejuvenated, which is awesome. I would be remiss if I didn't mention not our first interview, but for sure, but the very first podcast interview Ghost Cult ever did was with you and Trevor Sternad, who passed away a year ago. So I would be sad if I didn't bring that up, even though I'm not trying to bring this down. But we love Trevor here; he was a friend to us and many in the metal scene, and that was a wonderful record. And we spent the day together at Duff's. I interviewed most of the band that was there, and in two separate takes, so it was great. And thank you for that. But yeah, man, this record's a banger, except for one track that's a little more chill and also shows some variety. So the whole record's extremely brutal, and then there's like a moody track that's, I wouldn't quite call it. It's certainly not a ballad, but it's very dark and even a little expressive and ambient, right? And I like that the band can show all those things, but then it's also very right back to the heavy.
Well, it's funny that, you know, when you're in a metal band, it's either really metal or it's a ballad. Like there's no one, well, they've got clean guitars. Oh, it's a ballad. You know, like you said, is it a ballad? I don't know. I mean, what the hell is a ballad? I should probably look the word up and see what it says. It just becomes this go-to, you know, if it's not just melting your face, it must be a ballad, you know. But you know, you're talking about the song "Walk with Me Forever," which is for sure an intentional shifting of gears when Guillermo brought the idea in. You know, he kind of, you know, we're new friends, we're new musicians, it's a new sound, we're creating something together, and you know, we kind of have our sound now, right? And then so he says, hey, what do you guys think about, I think you used the word ballad, bring in a ballad in. And I said, why not? Look, let's hear it. First of all, if it's a great song, who gives a shit what the genre it is? Let's bring it in. And it was great. And I think more importantly, it was a story that he needed to tell about the passing of his friend Lars, this sort of heavy grief that he carried around with him. He was a different man at that phase, different lifestyle he was leading, you know, coming out of a band. You know, with bands, we tend to hit it pretty hard, and some of us hit the wall, you know. And I think he kind of hit a wall, and then his friend died, and it was over, and it was like, what is this? I'd been through that, you know. Like Megadeth ended in 2002, suddenly, very unexpectedly. So I'd been down that road. So for me, it was less about, is it a ballad or not? It was more about, I can relate to this story because I've already lived this story, and you need to tell this story to sort of, you know, process this publicly. This is part of your transition, Guillermo, out of your past into this new thing. I've been through these transitions several times. I'm like, come on, let's go. Let's do this. You know, I'll walk side by side with you. And I think that's a big part of what we have with Dieth is we have this brotherhood between us, that we feel safe, we feel encouraged, we feel inspired by each other. And so together we were able to take that song and really mold it into something really special. And then I end up singing the thing, you know. I mean, I didn't see that coming because, you know, and that was just me offering to kind of step up to the mic and help develop some melody ideas. And you know, Christian Cole produced the track with us, and he really did a great job of getting me on the mic, getting the right timbre to my voice, the right sort of smoky sound to it to, you know, tell the story in this somber way. And yet with this kind of uplifting, majestic chorus that gives hope to the listener, you know, that while the verse is sad, the choruses are very inspiring.
Right on. And it definitely chops the record in half also in a way. Mm-hmm. And just one other thought before we jump into the next section here. Of course, just this being by nature, just so heavy, was it a good opportunity for you to also just flex a little more on the bass? Did you change anything up or return to anything with your bass tone or your bass rig that you haven't been able to use with the Lucid or the other projects?
Yeah, well, it required a complete readjustment. In fact, I'm still investigating and adjusting to it because, look, it's a new sound, it's a blank canvas, and I'm creating a whole new David Ellefson here. It's kind of like, hello me, meet the new me, right? And with the bass, look, you can do one of two things. You can take a bass and tune it down, which I don't like. I hate doing that. Guitars sound great tuned down. Basses just get really floppy and ugly. And in my opinion, they lose all their personality. So what I did is I took my 5-string bass and tuned it up a half step. So now the bass is twanging and singing, now it's really got some snap to it. And the amp is happier, the strings are happier, everything just behaves much better. So that's I don't know if anybody's ever done that before. In modern metal, everybody tunes down. I tuned up, right? So it's sort of like, do the opposite of what everybody's doing, and playing obviously, Heavy as the Crown, things that I brought in, new finger motions, new places on the fingerboard where I've not put my hands before on riffs. And same with Guilherme. His riffing style is very different from what I've done in the past, so the whole thing is new. It's a whole new relationship, and I think that makes it really a lot of fun, for all of us to just kind of hit the reset button here.
I dig it. So To Helen Back is the album. Let's just bang through the track list. Any impressions or things you want to share about each track? Beside the one we already did is appreciated. Okay. So
sure.
To Helen Back kicks off with the title track.
So I think lyrically it sets the narrative for the whole experience of what you're going to hear on the record. You're going to go to hell and back on this record. That's what you're going to hear. You're going to feel it emotionally. The song lyrics are going to take you on that journey. So in some ways, it's kind of like it's like a Broadway play. You're right. There's a story here, and something we've all gone through. We've all been to hell and back on some or more situations of our lives. Musically, I think, if you had heard In the Hall of the Hanging Serpents a year ago, when you hear this, you go, oh yeah, these guys, fuck yeah, I love these guys. I'm glad these guys are back, because that got some great reception. And I think this is a good way. This is very connected. The context is very consistent to what you first heard from Dieth. And it's like, it's 2023. These guys are back. Fuck yeah.
I love it. The next track, which is a banger, again, is Don't Get Mad, Get Even.
So I brought this lyric over, and obviously it tells a pretty easy story, right? And I think one that, most can think about someone in their life, go, they're like, yeah, fuck that guy, or fuck that chick, that she broke my heart, or whatever, whatever it is, right? Some relational thing, right? So, or maybe it was a band, right? Fuck those guys, But, as Guilherme and I were putting the song, he wrote the music, I wrote the lyrics. And as we were putting the song together, we talked about the outcome of it, right? Because a lot of, Dieth is not a start mad or sad and then go negative and it ends worse. We're about, let's hit it on the head, and then where does this, where's sort of the silver lining on this story, right? And I love that about Kiss. They always, and Judas Priest, they always had these anthems, that always were sort of a call to action to rise up and and end better, right? And so I think we took that mindset with this song, and certainly the video tells of that story. The guy who's sitting around drinking, kind of being a bum, and then decides, fuck this, and gets off the couch and gets into action and makes himself better. Same with the girl, she reads a text like, the broken heart, and so she's like, fuck this, and she, the metaphorical thing of she's running up the hill, she even falls down on the way up, but at the end of the video, she's, it's the Rocky Balboa moment, right? I'm gonna rise to win over this, you know. So that's the theme of that song. You know, I think that's, I don't know, that's it, you know, and that's why in my press quote I said, don't get bitter, get better.
Love it. Good advice. Should be on a shirt. Wicked Disdain is next.
So Wicked Disdain, man, I love the note choices and the patterns of the riffs in this song. I just love it when it starts right out of the gate. It's got this kind of really Black Sabbath thing. And it's funny because when we play together live in the room, you know, there's a bit of this kind of stoner doom thing that comes out that you don't really hear on the record, but it and it's because of these note choices, like on Wicked Disdain, these riffing patterns, and of course the lyrical thing is sort of this just disgust for how humans treat each other. You know, how like no other animal would fucking treat the way would and I wouldn't treat you the way I treat me sometimes. You know what I mean? Sort of this self-loathing and this kind of stuff, right? This do unto your neighbors you do unto yourself is like I would never do to my neighbor some of the internal talk I've had with myself. It's like, who would do that? You know, so it's sort of addressing that topic, and again, you know, pull the nose up to rise to the higher elevation.
I like it. Free Us All is the next one.
So Free Us All, Guilherme wrote the lyric, and it's about this, you know, it's funny, even the pre-chorus parts that I sing, you know, fight for your land, you know, staking a claim, like, you know, staking a claim in your life. And, you know, the old saying that if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And, you know, making a claim, what's worth fighting for and what's worth fighting over. And sometimes in life, there are some things that it's like, man, this is just where I'm not going to compromise on this. Like, this is just not one to do that with. So, you know, musically, it's, I think, one of the more adventurous journeys of the record. You know, it has, again, this heavy Dieth sound now that you've heard from the beginning of the record. Yet it has this like big band jazz swing thing, walking bass lines. It has at the end, it has this kind of 70s Allman Brothers guitar, guitar harmonies. And live, we're having fun with it now as a song that we can really expand, you know, that it doesn't have to just stay so literal as the performance on the record. It's something we can really open up into a live experience for that song.
Right on. Heavy is the Crown is the next one.
So that's a song that I brought in. I started it on piano and I couldn't finish it, and then I looked over and picked up my guitar and plugged it into my Marshall and drop tuned it to what I thought was approximately a Dieth tuning, and the riffs just freaking wrote themselves, you know. And I'd already had the lyric "Heavy is the crown," and it comes from the saying that, you know, heavy is the head that wears the crown. In other words, to whom much is expected, to whom much is given, much is expected. And the one that is in the highest position, you know, bears the most responsibility. And I was thinking politically here in America, how we've watched those that are given the highest title of presidents and you know, they've just made a fucking mockery and a shit show out of our prized and precious democracy, that has so much blood has been spilled over the writing of that, over the, you know, the centuries, you know, founding of our country. And of course, I just refer to my own country. Everybody has their own, you know. The band's based out of Poland, you know, Gdansk, Poland is as I understand, you know, where World War II began. So I mean, as I'm walking to Starbucks, I think about the boots that have walked these cobblestone streets and the history that's gone before me, as I get to enjoy my freedoms, you know, walking. So, you know, I think about kind of all of those things, you know, biblical times, political times, where, you know, the responsibility that was then, you know, the abuse of power, if you will.
Right on. My grandmother came here on a steamship from Gdansk in 1906. So
No
I'm right there with
shit.
you. Yeah, I'm a
No
descendant.
shit. Yeah.
I'm a mutt in other respects from the other
Yeah.
side, but
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
part Polish too.
Yeah.
Since we talked a little bit about Walk With Me Forever, let me ask you a question, which
Yeah.
is maybe the potential, how the track came out, the success of the track. Do you think you'd be interested in doing more lead vocals in the future?
100%. Walk With Me or Heavy as the Crown is the first song that Mihal was very specific. He goes, "You wrote it, you're going to sing it." Because I when I sent them the little demo of it, it was just, I always put everything on my iPhone, right? I just kind of demo it, and then I can easily send it around. Hey, what do you think? That's sort of the initial, you know, uh, testing of the waters. And I sang most of those vocal melodies. I didn't have the lyric, I didn't put the words to the music yet, but um, I was singing the vocal melodies, and so right away they're like, "You're going to sing this," So in my mind, I look at it going, "Okay, this is my Ace Frehley shock me moment, right? Where I finally sing one of my own songs rather than having someone else sing it." And I got to be honest with you, when you're writing for somebody else, you're always writing for the character of who they are when they're singing, because when we sing, we go into a character for each song that we sing. And there's and then as vocalists, we kind of have a persona that sort of follows us or it becomes us, right? So, I think with Walk With Me Forever, look, these are songs, I've always had a clean voice, right? So it's kind of cool because Guilherme's got a real, diesel breath sound to his singing. So my clean sound really juxtaposes well against him. And I Walk With Me Forever, I was the right vocal tone, to sing the song and convey the emotion and the melody. And so I'm glad that, we started a band where, funny enough, just like my very first band, which at 12 years old, that was a 3-piece, I was also one of the singers. So here I am, you know, 48 years or 47 years later, and I'm now in a 3-piece band and I'm one of the singers. So I'm really up to the challenge, and I love it. I think now, I don't think of this band now just being the bass player. I now think of it very holistically as, maybe like how Geddy Lee would, he's the singer, bass player, keyboardist, writer, you know what I mean? You're kind of, all of my faculties are being used now.
Awesome. With respect to time, let's whip through the last of these. Dead Inside is the next track.
Man, dead inside, look, it is what it is. It's just that feeling of being dead inside. You're just emotionally wrought out. So I think, lyrically, it's explained pretty well. So I was thinking about some experiences like that, situations I've been in where you're done. You're just roached. There's nothing, you have nothing more to give. You're not even sad. You're not even mad. You're just fucking dead. Like, there's just nothing more. And I think that is a sort of, probably for the three of us, is a feeling we all had pre-Dieth at some point, and because now we get to sort of go back and retrospectively tell these stories, and they lead up into the current day, this sort of rebirth for us, which is what the very name Dieth says. It's like you have to die to your past to have a new start. So Dead Inside, in a lot of ways, is probably kind of the end of that previous life. And again, musically, it's comes out swinging, and it's I think kind of the quintessential Dieth sound.
Indeed. The Mark of Cain is the 8th track on the record.
Mm-hmm. When we were recording that, because I do some backing vocals on it in the studio, it's just so blistering and off the hook. I love it because it's one of the most just all out oral assaulting songs I've ever played in my life. And I love that the drumming's fantastic. I always say a band is only as good as its drummer, and we've got one of the best. And Mihal really he's such a personality and such a musical color to the sound of the Dieth music. So I think it's a great way to come out of the valley of listening experience you've had to sort of end, there before, of course, the final song, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Right on. In the Hall of the Hanging Serpents, again, we've discussed it, but anything else you want to add to that as the penultimate track?
Sure. Yeah, in the hall, we felt it needed to go on the record because it was the first thing anybody had heard from us, and even though we released it independently, we felt it needed to go on this as a Napalm Records proper release. Because this will get pushed out properly as a real, piece of recorded history here. That song was just about the hanger-oners, the wannabes, the people that latch onto your life. And of course, if you're a celebrity and you're famous, and as musicians, there's so many people that, they want our lives, or they want to touch our lives, or, they just, through their own emptiness and brokenness or whatever other horrible agendas they may have, they want to somehow latch into your life somehow. And how it just emotionally just drains you. It's like you're just, they're like spiritual vampires, and they just suck the life out of you. So that's what that song is about lyrically.
Right on. And then the very fitting and final track is Severance.
And that song has such significance to the story of this album, because you are hearing a similar sound that you heard on the beginning of the record with the needle drop on To Helen Back. Yet this is the reprise. This is the revisit back to the origin story at the beginning of the record. Yet, now when you hear Severance, it's majestic and it's victorious and it's uplifting, and it's not dark and haunting like it is at the beginning of To Hell and Back, that leading you into hell, into the story, right? We've now been to hell and back and come out the other side, and we're changed. We're not the same people that we were when we descended down into hell the first time. Hell of our own making, hell of someone else's making, whatever it is, that we are now through the valley. And now we stand, just like in the video of To Hell and Back, we're standing on the other side, looking over the scorched earth, going, "What the fuck? That was a journey, man. What the hell?" And yet we stand united as three brothers, having gone through it. It's almost like a video game. We come through it. So Severance, and I think the title, Mihal, our drummer, named it. It's just that. It's the cutting of the cord to the past, so that you can finally be free to move forward.
Nice. And cheers to your perseverance and all the guys for everything. I had a different last question for you, but then the news happened yesterday that Paramount killed off MTV News. And I had this opportunity to talk to you, so I have to bring this up quickly. But MTV News, you hear it, you and Gar, right? The opening to that song. And I know Mustaine likes to tell everybody that's his riff, but that's your bass sound. That's the bass drum of Gar Samuels. And that came into so many more homes than, your whole career of metal being what it is. But like that iconic sound will forever be associated with that, that bumper for MTV News. And they used it. I don't even know who edited it, but wild that MTV News is gone, but that yours, that's like so closely associated, and that's your tone, and that's your bass tone.
No, it is for sure. It's thank you for the acknowledgement, and you're right. It's most people don't get one of those in their lifetime. Tony Iommi, I always think of like Iron Man, or Steve Harris, of course, has got his signature sound. Rush has theirs. As a musician, to have that such an identity related to that. And the funny thing is, I was on tour. I missed the whole thing. I wasn't home watching MTV every day to hear it. I was out going to work. I was touring. So it's people like you who tell, like, "Oh my God, like you have no idea it was on every day. We heard it all the time. It's just part of our, backdrop of our lives through that whole season." So probably better that I wasn't there for it, because I was out working. I was actually playing the song every night, on tour, and growing our band. But look, what an honor, to have that moment and to be part of it, because that was a band. We put that song together as a group. It only took about 2 hours. We put the song together as a band, the arrangement and everything, and it all the pieces. That was a beautiful moment of that band. We were very much in sync, the four of us. We were working well together. And that song, just laid right in the trench, just so effortlessly. So, I'm thankful to whoever it was over at MTV who had the fortitude and the bright idea to use it. I mean, thank you, dude, whoever you are. So I think about that with KK Downing. As great of a guitar player he is, that opening wang bar thing for Sinner, come on, fucking changed all of our lives. I mean, that's his, right? It doesn't have to be some beautiful melody, just vicious and fucking beating the shit out of the guitar. It's like, fuck, dude, you're our guy forever. So in metal, sometimes it's the stabbing and the blood and the fucking viciousness of it that's our takeaway. That's what we love the most.
We are like a sword tempered in fire. David Ellefson, Dieth, the debut album is coming out June 2nd from our friends at Napalm Records. Thank you so much for hanging out with us once again.
Yep.
Always an honor and a pleasure, my friend. And next time, hopefully, we'll do this in person. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Keith.